gorgeous. Welcome to the Ready to Bloom podcast, which features interviews with inspiring women entrepreneurs from around the world. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, without further ado, I'll hand you over to your host, Holly Wharton.
Hello and welcome to the Ready to Bloom podcast, episode 107. This is your host, Holly Wharton. I'm here with today's special guest, Annie Stoker. Annie is an author, transpersonal psychotherapist, trainer, and coach. She uses a unique blend of Eastern mindfulness techniques and cutting-edge Western psychological tools to help single women and couples put the spark back into their eyes and hearts so that they can experience joy and love again. Welcome, Annie.
Hi, Holly. Great to be here.
I'm so excited to talk with you today.
Thank you.
So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about your business background and your business journey and how you got to where you are today?
Well, I've been working with people for about 25 years, and I've worked my way through lots of different alternative therapies and medicine, and sort of ended up working in the area of mindset and success and personal development. Mm-hmm. I really ended up working with people a lot of the time in business, whether it was traders or property investors and public speakers. So I've worked with various different niches in business to help them get over their mindset challenges in business. So it's been a varied route, but I love what I do.
Excellent. And so did you start out as a psychotherapist and then add other things on top of that, or how did that work?
I mean, I've originally started doing massage and physical therapies, way, 25 years ago, and then sort of studied naturopathy and all the different types of alternative therapies, and just got more and more interested in the mind and the psychological, emotional side of things. So specialized in that.
Excellent. So you've trained in a number of different things over the years. Could you like to talk to us about how you've blended that together? Because you've got so many tools in your toolbox.
Yeah, well, look, for me, the Eastern model of psychology, that we're just a mind and it's all very contained within the brain, if you like, that's not enough for me. And the way I work is very much to include the wisdom of the East and, all the spiritual aspects to it that have been around for thousands of years, but not in a spiritual way, if that makes sense. It's like I really want to bring the depths of spiritual practice into normality without it being kind of spiritualized in the way that it is a lot of the time. So, words like mindfulness now are becoming very, very popular, and I think that's a great bridge between the East and the West. So I'm really happy that that's taking off.
Yes, I think that people are coming to a whole new level of awareness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about mindset at the beginning. Now, I think that's one of those words that's also getting more and more kind of part of the mainstream conversation and language. How would you define mindset, and how would you... how would you define mindset? Because I think a lot of people aren't quite sure what that means. I mean, it definitely sounds like something, people want a positive mindset or a mindset for success, but how would you define that?
Well, I mean, I could say one word very simply, which is an attitude. Mm-hmm. That's a bit simplistic, obviously, but for me, it's a combination of an attitude plus awareness. And if you think just about the fact that the majority of the mind is actually unconscious and subconscious, we're actually run by a lot of stuff that most of us aren't aware of. So I think mindset is having the awareness of what's going on under the surface a little bit to see what your programming is and, to explore that so that you have a bit more choice and awareness. And so that you can be more positive and have a positive so-called mindset so that you can, be happier along the way and hopefully create a happier life for yourself and your family and others.
Excellent. So how do you work with people then to help them create this mindset? Do people come for you for coaching, or how do they come to you, and how do you blend this unique set of tools that you've got into your unique way of helping people?
Yeah, people come for coaching. I also do training. So I train workshops and teach people, whether it's couples or singles or business people, just how to apply being happier no matter what's going on in your life. Because most people focus on, improving a business, improving your relationships. And I'm kind of doing kind of the opposite in that I'm helping people to get freer and happier, even if the relationship doesn't change or the business doesn't change. That's kind of like the icing on the cake.
Mm-hmm.
So it's how to be happy and peaceful now, and then get your life working as well. But rather than the other way around, most people are trying to fix their business so they can get happy, or fix their relationship so they can get happy. So I've worked the other way around.
Excellent. So it kind of led me to go off tangent, but I think this is really, really important what you've said, because I think a lot of women that are building a new business often struggle to get clients. They struggle with the marketing if they don't have previous marketing experience. They struggle with the business if they don't have previous business experience. And it can be really, really stressful. So how would you recommend that people could be happy and peaceful with their business, no matter what's going on, no matter what challenges that they have?
Well, if you look at what stress is, the first thing is that it's generally wanting something to be different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the very first way to get a whole lot happier in your life is just to actually let go of wanting things to be different and accepting them just as they are. I mean, there's no point arguing with what's going on right now. We can fix it, in 5 minutes time, but right now is just how it is. So the very first step is always acceptance, and just getting to, stop jumping up and down and wishing something was just different from how it is, and just coming to that calm place. That's the first step. And then understanding how maybe you put yourself under pressure, you have expectations that maybe you're not matching or meeting, and the actual structure of the stress. So it might be that you're wanting things to be perfect, you're wanting to have a certain amount of money right now. People have different, ways that they create stress for themselves. It might be wanting everyone to like them, or wanting to have a bit more success than they have. And then just learning how to change that mindset, if you like. Learning how to approach things differently so that you're looking at what you have rather than what you don't have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that can be a huge struggle for people in business, because I think women often compare themselves to other people. And even if they've only been in business for a couple of months or a couple of years, they're comparing themselves to women who've been in business for, 5, 6, 7, 8 or more years.
Yeah, totally.
So the comparison game can be really, really difficult.
And I think comparison is something to actually delete out of your mental vocabulary, if you like. It's it never helps. Comparison is one of those things that I really encourage people just to not engage in. And self-judgment's another one, and getting discouraged is another one. It's like if you don't do those things, you're instantly going to be an awful lot happier and feeling more successful.
So that's kind of a huge mindset shift, because we are so used to comparing ourselves to others, to judging ourselves, judging other people, being judged, and then, of course, getting discouraged as a result of all of this. So how do you recommend that people shift that mindset?
Well, it's a lot about your definition of yourself as being a certain type of person. So if you have kind of like an idea of success being a certain level of attainment, it might have material status. It might have a dollar sign or a pound sign attached to it. It might have, a certain level of income or experiences that you're able to have. It's like, is that actually true? Is that what success actually is? Are you sure? And we really suffer when we have these set definitions of what we think success is that maybe we're not living up to right now. And then that causes us to compare and get discouraged and feel negative about things. So it's really about seeing that definition isn't real. I mean, there is no universal definition of success. In many countries, it might just be keeping your children alive or getting enough food on the table. So it's always totally subjective. And to see that your own definition of success, if it's causing you suffering and pain, is pointless. You want to change it. So that would be a pretty important thing to do.
That's great. And I think that's a really good point, because it's such a fine line between having that clear vision, working on the vision, having the goals, taking action towards the goals, but not beating ourselves up for not having achieved that yet.
I like to say that the only two real reasons for doing anything are either love or contribution, or play / self-expression. Everything else, if you look at it, most people's reasons for doing things or drives for doing things, if you like, is actually fear-based. I want to be successful because I don't want to feel inadequate. I want to be as good as the neighbors so that I don't feel less than. I want to feel like people love me because I don't want to feel lonely. All those kind of ego drives that drive us that most of us aren't conscious of, when you let those things go and you just come from a place of what do I want to contribute to the world, what do I want to express in the world, and it's a whole lot simpler, and the idea of success doesn't really even turn up.
I absolutely love that. I think that's a very, very different way of looking at things.
Well, it's about seeing through all those labels that you were saying, those judgments, and getting to the core of things.
It is, because deep down, I think most of us want to make the world a better place. We want to help people. We want to contribute. But somehow we tend to get sidetracked on, the goals, the vision, the comparison, all of that stuff. So I think that really does take it down to, why did we start this business in the first place? It's because we want to contribute something to the world. And we want to help people, and we want to share our gifts, whatever they may be.
Yeah, and when that works, obviously we hope that we get the financial reward of that, which will allow us to have the type of lifestyle that we want, which is all about play.
Yeah.
That's all about self-expression and having the time off that you want. But it's so ridiculous to work that hard and be so stressed in the hope of having the future lifestyle that you want. It's like, it's completely back to front to me.
It is. And it's funny because so many entrepreneurs follow that lifestyle plan that so many employees have, which is you work really, really hard until you're in your 60s, and then you retire, and then, of course, life is fantastic, even though, maybe your health is failing and you're not young enough to enjoy the time off.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
But it's like, we become entrepreneurs because we don't want to follow that scheme, but then we kind of lock ourselves into the same kind of thing of work, 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 and then, someday it'll pay off.
Well, I mean, a lot of business owners end up working an awful lot harder than, employees anyway. So, yeah, it's certainly not a black and white solution.
Yes. So you've talked a little bit about play. What does play mean to you, and how do you bring play into your business?
For me, it might sound strange, but my business is no different from the rest of my life. There's no delineation of now I'm at work and now I'm not. I do this stuff all the time anyway, whether it's in my personal life or with friends or in my spare time. I'll go and study this stuff or, hang out with people who do this stuff. So that in that way, if that makes sense, there's no kind of business and then play. It is play for me, and it is love for me, and very much contribution. In terms of not doing that, then hey, I'm happy to have as much fun as anyone else. Whether it's traveling or going to music festivals or riding horses or whatever. I love traveling and seeing different things. So yeah, that's the kind of I guess what people call leisure side of things for me. But there's not that real, this is work and this isn't work at all.
So do you feel like you bring a great sense of playfulness to your business and to your work with clients?
I think, yeah. I mean, I don't really think of the way that I approach things as playful, but I guess what I'm really doing is encouraging people to be a whole lot lighter about stuff. So yeah, you could call that playful.
Yeah.
Just let's not take this whole thing so seriously. It's a game. It's an option. It's all optional. You could play any game you want to play. You don't have to be doing this,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a bit of lightness.
And you can play or you can suffer, because I think a lot of people choose the suffering route.
That's right. Exactly. For sure.
Yeah, I think that's a great take on things because, as we've said, we can take our businesses so seriously, and it becomes this kind of terrible matter of life and death, and I'm struggling to build this business. And, perhaps we could all benefit from lightening things up a little bit.
Yeah, lighten up, because you just don't know what's coming, and we have this great kind of myth and illusion that we've got endless swathes of time with which to do the stuff that we want to do, and we never know that. So I think it's so important to have reality in our major perspective and make sure that we're living the way that we want to live now. And I'm not saying that you can have your external life perfect. Of course you can't always, but you can certainly get a whole lot freer and happier and lighter on the inside. And then if you get your business goals, great. And if you don't, it's still great. It's okay. It's not a problem. It's all right. Just do something different then,
Exactly. And I think that's the benefit of being self-employed, is that you can constantly evolve your business and reinvent yourself and reinvent your business and rebrand, and you can change it up whenever you want. It's not like you're stuck in a job with a, huge corporation or entity and you've got to do what they're telling you to do. You've got endless flexibility.
Exactly, and that's why a lot of people want to get into their own business, of course, because they have flexibility and it's about the lifestyle. It's maybe being at home with family. And then it gets all stressy and crazy and people are miserable and it's not working and it's, oh my goodness. We're supposed to be doing this because we want the freedom, and I think a lot of people just lose sight of the fact that they kind of have that in a lot of ways.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even just the fact of being able to work from home is something that for many people is just such a massive luxury that...
Exactly.
Yeah. So... do you have any more tips for stress-free success? I know we've talked about acceptance and that focus on love and contribution and play. Is there anything else that comes to mind that perhaps we could be taking a look at to help shift our mindset towards a stress-free business?
Well, I did also talk about, the definition of success, letting go of that as well. I think that's an important thing. And really, what's in your mind isn't true. Let me put it that way. Just because you have a thought saying, oh, I've got to make more money, or oh, I'm not as good as the neighbors, or whatever it is, it's not the truth. It's just a voice in your head. So the capacity to just observe these thoughts and watch them and just let them kind of swim past, if you like, is so important, because otherwise, yes, as we were saying, we end up taking things very seriously, but then we create a whole lot of stress and drama around things that doesn't help us feel good, doesn't help us create good results, and doesn't help anyone that we happen to be around. It's like we don't want to end up inflicting ourselves on other people because we're all stressed and uptight just because of what's going on between our ears. So to have some kind of, I guess, mindfulness training or some kind of mind mastery process that you have, mind mechanics, anything that helps you understand your mind and not just the individual thoughts, but in the big picture that your mind's just a machine. Its job is to churn out thoughts. Those thoughts don't relate to the reality. They relate to your interpretation of the reality. And then to develop a different relationship with your mind so that you're not taking it so seriously and therefore not taking life so seriously.
Excellent advice. So we've talked a little bit about mindfulness. How would you define that for people who perhaps have heard the word but aren't quite sure what that means?
Yeah, look, it's a really weird term. It sounds like you get to be really full of mind, but actually you get to be mindlessness in a way. It's kind of less mind. It's the capacity to really watch your thoughts, to observe your thoughts, to not get caught up in them, and to have a present moment awareness that doesn't involve living in the past and the future all the time, which is kind of where most people live most of the time. So it's to be very aware in the present, and the present is genuinely very simple. It's just something's in front of you. You're somewhere, you're standing, sitting, lying, looking at something, listening to something. It's generally not too problematic for most people. And when we can be focused on the actual present moment rather than thinking about, oh, I've got 20,000 things to do in the future and how am I going to do them, and create stress in that way, if you can just be present with like a very short space of time, which is now, then you can relax a whole lot. So it's helping people to get present, to relax, to be open, and to not then live in the future, which creates anxiety, or live in the past, which tends to create depression. That's pretty, a simple way to get a whole lot happier straight away.
Yes, definitely. Now, you say that you have a very unique way of getting straight to the point with your clients. Does mindfulness play a part in that, or what's your technique there?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I guess what I do is the antithesis of counseling. Not that there's anything wrong with counseling. A lot of people need counseling. They need to talk about stuff. But I'm not interested in the story of things. I'm interested in how people are creating that story to be a problem for them. So how do you create suffering out of what's happened? And it's not the event. It's not the people involved. It's not the situation. It's like, what are you making it mean? And how can you let that go so that you no longer have anxiety or stress around what's happened, because you can't change what's happened.
Of course.
Nothing we can do about that. We have to then work with ourselves to get to a peaceful place about it.
I think that's a fascinating perspective, because the same type of incident can happen to many different people, and each individual will create a completely different story as to what that means and what that means for their life and how that's affected them and how that will affect their decisions. And it's all about the story we create.
Yep, we're all 100% responsible for our interpretation of what's happened. And if if you don't know that, you're stuck kind of being a victim to whatever happened to you, which is not a helpful place. It's not empowered. You're not able to change it from that position of feeling, helpless or stuck. And you'll probably feel very anxious that it might even happen again. So, so it's getting back in the driver's seat, not only of your life, but of your mind, and learning how to take charge of the interpretations that you create to I'm not saying just be positive. I'm saying actually understand that you can change your relationship with your mind as a whole.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that's something that so many people don't realize or just aren't aware of. I mean, we have complete responsibility over what's going on in our minds. It's not like this wild animal that just kind of runs off on its own and does things. We can work with it to work in our favor.
Exactly. And then, it's very easy to get people to shift that focus to go, oh, you mean I'm doing it?
Yes. I have control over it. I can train it.
Wow. Show me where the buttons and the levers are and I'll maybe do something different. So it's a massive shift. It's very simple, but it is a massive shift in people's willingness to just, face up to what they're doing and just learn some tools to do things differently. But to me, it's kind of like, unless you know that, you're always subject to what life does to you.
Yeah.
And you're trying to manipulate life the whole time to get it the way you want it, and then it's not, and then you're upset. And it's like there's a whole different way to be, which is actually to let go of all that stuff and just be with what is and relax into it.
Yes, and that just makes everything flow so much more easily.
Yeah, and of course the secret is then that you tend to get much better results because you're not uptight and stressy and pushing and fighting about things. That's not a reason to do it, but you tend to get, things manifesting or showing up a lot easier from that place too.
Yeah, definitely, because you're not so desperate.
Yeah, of course, and it's not fear-based either.
Yes. I think a lot of it comes back to, as you've said, everything that's not love, play, and contribution is fear-based.
Yeah, totally. And it's the subtle fears that we probably don't know. And like people know that they're afraid of spiders, snakes or something. Like, I'm scared. And people might know that they're afraid of getting on stage and public speaking, for example, because they feel the anxiety. But I think a lot of people don't know the more subtle fears and avoidances and protection mechanisms that they have in their life and why they're driven to be a certain way. And when you can very easily get aware of that stuff. And when you do, then you've got completely different choices about not listening to the fears and doing something different instead, which comes eventually back to love and contribution. Absolutely. Yeah. And play.
Yes. Play with your business. Play with your life.
Please.
So, Annie, how do you work with people? I know you're part of Dr. Joanna Martin's program and you're her head coach behind that. Could you tell us a little bit about both your one-to-one work with people and also the different kind of programs that you work with?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've had the great fortune to work with Joanna Martin over a number of years now. I've worked with her in her previous business as well, and now I've been collaborating with her on one of many, which is it's a business for women, and it's we've created the One Woman Conference, and we've also created a series of events for women who are doing a 12-month program. So I'm running the coaching department in that, and I do the group circles that we have and individual coaching as well, and sort of oversee that process, as well as contributing to creating the event. So I just love that. And it's an incredible gift to see women transform over the year as they go through the program. So that's extraordinary. And then, of course, I have my own clients and do trainings as well myself, individually and with business people or just women generally, really, and couples too. So I'm shuffling between those two hats at the moment, but I'm loving working with Jo. It's just such a gift.
Excellent. So how can other women in business benefit from working with you? Should they check out your website? What are the options?
Yeah, the options are, if people are interested in, I guess, happiness for no reason, let's put it that way, rather than all the other stuff. Everyone else seems to be helping people get brighter, shinier lives. I'm not about that, but I'm about, let's get happy now, and then if you still want to have a brighter, shinier life, let's do that. But now is kind of important. Let's not put off happiness till some other time. So,
Yes.
so those are the people that I work with. So yeah, sure. I mean, people can go to the website and there's, contact information on there and everything. So the easiest website is anniestoker.com.
Okay. That was my next question.
Yeah.
Okay. And you've authored books and you've been featured on TV and in print. Could you tell us a little bit about the books that you've written?
I've done a couple of joint venture books or co-authored books. One was called Miss Millionaire. That was at a time when I was doing a lot of investing, and I was speaking a lot on property mindset, which was teaching women how to build a property portfolio and make sure that they deal with their blocks and fears along the way. So that was fun. That was a joint venture for a few years, which was fabulous. And I also, as part of that, I co-authored a book called Property is a Girl's Best Friend.
Oh.
So that was fun too. And then my own book is called The Personal Development Handbook, which is really, it's no frills, back to basics, just, kind of saying it how it is, just guide to all the stuff that's out there, just try to make it incredibly simple and straightforward and straight between the eyes for everyone. Just to realize that, you can do it and it can be pretty simple and not that hard. So
excellent.
That's my own book.
Great. We'll add links to those in the show notes. And Annie, do you have any women business mentors? Are there any women in business who inspire you?
Look, I have to say Joanna Martin, of course. Yeah. I work with her. And as I said, I've known her for probably 7 years, and she's just incredible. She's a combination of raw talent and hard work and putting into practice everything that she teaches. So, like the joint ventures and the way that she's got one of many off the ground in England now from a standing start is just incredible. So I totally take my hat off to her. She's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. And for those listening, she was episode 19. So if you'd like to take a look at Joanna Martin, she's also here. So Annie, in addition to your website, which you've said is anniestoker.com, are you on social media? Can people find you there?
Yeah, sure. Facebook, Annie Stoker.
Perfect.
UK or Annie Stoker Australia. I've got, a couple of pages there.
Okay.
And just Annie Stoker anything really tends to be me.
Good. That's the good thing about having a unique name. There aren't, thousands of you.
Not too many, a couple here and there, but mainly it's me.
Good. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. You've had fantastic advice, and I really think that, we can all benefit from learning about changing our mindset and focusing on love, play, and contribution rather than fear-based things, which are, it's so easy to kind of get sucked into that trap.
Yeah, totally. It's been an absolute pleasure, Holly. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
You're welcome. And thank you for listening. And remember to visit readytobloom.com/107 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to the Ready to Bloom podcast with your host, Holly Wharton. You can find more information about today's guests, including links for topics that were discussed at readytobloom.com. That's ready, the number 2, bloom.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to head over to iTunes and leave us a quick review of this podcast. Thank you so much.